Kick it off.
Yeah, we finally got it. We got the man himself in the building. Yeah, Mr. Bodybuilding.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, seriously, Mike Valentino. How you doing, brother?
I appreciate it. Yeah, dang, I'm doing
Thank you for
good.
coming.
Hope you guys are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, appreciate you having me.
Yeah, we wanted to get the man in the building to talk business of bodybuilding, because I don't think that there's anybody, at least in North Carolina, that knows it quite as good as you do. I mean, how many years you been involved in bodybuilding?
Man, I started. I joined my first gym when I was 17, and I immediately, the bug bit me. I competed about 3 months later in the teenage Mr. North Carolina. Yeah, so it's. I'm 63, so you're talking 46 years.
Oh my gosh! And that's back whenever they only had bodybuilding and women's bodybuilding, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's it. Only 2 classes.
That's it. Nothing else,
yeah, dude, that's crazy. How long? So, what year did you get your pro card?
2002.
2002.
So that was a journey. Yep. Many, highs and lows, bumps in the road, business, family, all those things. But so 2002.
Okay. And what show was that?
That was the Nationals.
Okay.
It was in Dallas that year, and the firted time I had competed in the Nationals was the year before, 2001, in Atlanta, and I got third. At that time, it was only class winners, got the pro card. So. I had moved into the light heavyweight division the year before. The 2000, I won the USA middleweight in Las Vegas.
Yep.
And just struggling to get down to the 176 mark at that point. I was, I had qualified at like 185 right before that. So making the transition up to the light heavyweight took a good couple years to fully fill out and develop. And so anyways, it was that was the 2000, 2001, 2002 was really the prime competing years for going towards the pro card.
40 plus years. Goodness gracious. Yeah. Wow.
How's your body feel?
Oh man, that's a whole nother story right there. We were talking off the camera about some things, just trying to be healthy and use all the latest technology and literally in medicines and red light therapies and everything else under the sun to try to stay healthy. But I've had my share of surgeries from, probably some were genetics, spondylosis with the narrowing of the spine. So, you pound away lifting for years, you're going to compound some things. So I've had some variety of surgeries and injuries along the way. But like anything, I found, at least early on, when I would have any kind of setback, whether I was just taking a break because I was busy with business or family or have an injury, it was almost like it was a reset for me. It would let your mind and your body recover and recuperate. Because when you're all in the bodybuilding scene and you're training for the competitions and that's your primary focus, it is a 24/7 mindset that can become all engrossing. So some of those injuries and setbacks and just other things that took me in other directions with business and family, I think almost helped me compete longer, because I would have these breaks where I would be away from the intensity of the training and the nutrition and just the mental focus.
That was something I was going to ask you. Just like a lot of people that might not know you, like at one point, how many gyms did you own?
It built up to 15 Gold's Gyms when I was with the Gold's Gym brand for 24 years, which is a great experience. And that was the peak.
How, that's what I always wanted to know, because like I've got 2 nutrition stores and I find it so hard to juggle like a bodybuilder's lifestyle. That's why I haven't been on stage in 3 years. Like, how do you go from having like 15 gyms and bodybuilding and family and God knows what else, right?
It was, yep. I mean, you're right. Kids being born, family activities, and then just business. It was fortunate in the sense that it was the gyms. So I was in the environments and around people, and probably because of my involvement in bodybuilding, I probably attracted maybe just because of that, I was associated with a lot of similar-minded people and focused people. And my original background, what I attribute a lot of positive attributes to, was wrestling. Wrestle in middle school and high school, and those same fundamental foundational things of discipline and making weight and the consistent training, and carried over into bodybuilding, which also carried over into business. The discipline of just doing the basics. As many fancy pieces of equipment that have been designed and developed, and different diets, and there's nothing wrong with trying different things, and because different stimulus will get you different results, but the foundational basics are always what's going to make the difference, and what's going to really develop you, whether it's in, business, bodybuilding, alike.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like for me, a lot of people don't know this, but like whenever I first started like coming down here, like whenever I was like late high school, early college, like we would always train at Gold's Racine, right? It's O2 now. It's right across from our original NutriPrime. And I always crack the joke with him. I'm like, I just follow you around, because we just opened our second store right across from TrueFit.
There you go.
It was, I guess I timed it just right that as soon as we were opening up over there, like Gold's had, swapped over to O2. But like still, I mean, that area is still great for a gym. The demographics awesome, but like that gym, you'd walk into it at any given time, and it was just like pros everywhere training, like the best equipment. You had all the Mr. Olympias lined up on the wall above the leg equipment. Like it was like a different kind of environment, and none of the gyms, for the most part, really have that feel to it anymore. Just, I mean, like how would you say like the bodybuilding culture / demographic has changed out here since when you were with Gold's?
Yeah, I mean, it has. There's for a variety of reasons, but I think the culture of Gold's, where it started in 1965, Joe Gold, who started Gold's Gym, and of course brought Arnold over, and so all the foundational things will always be there. And different ownership groups with Gold's over the years have tried to, be more for everybody, and absolutely, you want to try to get people involved with all different levels of goals and lifestyle changes, but the foundation and the blueprint of what Gold's came from and what it was should always be recognized and understood, that it was all came from discipline and hard work and focus and those fundamentals. And piggybacking off that with your question, you asked me, how do you go from 1 to 2 as you did? I found going from 1 to 2, I could bounce back and forth. When I went to 3 is when things really started to get hairy, because I couldn't, spreading yourself 3 ways, you really start to spread yourself thin. And of course, at that point and beyond, it all becomes about having the right people with you. People that have similar mindset, similar goals, similar focus, and that can be challenging. But that's always going to be the key, is getting the right people with you.
Yeah, team's everything, right? I mean, like the team that you had, just from what little I knew about like Gold's Gym, like you had some beasts working for you, man. I mean, like not only did everybody look the part, but like there were some hard-working dudes in there, man. Like everybody was on top of the ball. Like equipment went down, it was fixed that day or the next day. The place was kept up good. Like, it's just like I genuinely came to Wilmington because I was like excited to go train at Gold's, and I would flip-flop. I never got down to Porter's Neck much, but I would flip-flop Shipyard and Racine all the time. But like Racine, that was like the Mecca, man. I mean, like that place is awesome. But now TrueFit Porter's Neck is pretty much the Mecca. But it's both gyms, they're incredible. But so how many TrueFits you got now?
There's 5 TrueFit locations currently. Yes, sir.
Gotcha. And then 2 of those are yours.
That's right. Okay. We have 1 location in Fayetteville, and then the one here at Porter's Neck, which was the Gold's Gym open. That was a Gold's Gym open in 2000.
Got you. Right on. The Porter's Neck was
the Porter's Neck location.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Right. Gotcha. Right on. Yeah, man. I wish I had gotten down to the Porter's Neck gym a little bit more. I always heard good things about it. One of my best friends used to train there every single day. Okay. He always say great things. But yeah, man, it's crazy to see that whole area, because I feel like Wilmington's like out of space now. So everybody's migrating towards like Porter's Neck, Hampstead, Scotts Hill,
Very true. Yeah. When I opened in 2000, I had people kind of looking at me like, "Are you sure you want to open up out there?" It was a little early, but if you talk to builders and developers and people in the area, and I've had the good fortune of meeting some great people that have been part of some great foundational development, they were all saying the same thing. Eventually, we got the ocean on one side and the river on the other, so we're a very long county, linear, and they're like, the land and the development's all going to happen on the north end, many, many years ahead, and they nailed it, So we got out there a little early. Took a little time. Some of our Racine members came there, particularly our group program, the group fitness between the 3 locations. The group fitness, which was mostly females at the time. We had some men that were doing it too, but they would travel to the 3 locations. But Racine, Porter's Neck would piggyback the Racine quite a bit, but that was still the hub, the Racine location.
For sure.
Yep.
And I still see a lot of the old Gold's Racing crowd in TrueFit, like Chad, Drew, all those guys. They're still up in there, you know, kicking. When did you decide to start jumping into promoting shows?
Man, my first contest I promoted, I was in Greensboro, and that's where my first gym was. Excuse me, I worked, when I started working out, I told you to join the gym, a gentleman named Dean Best. And Dean was we were very much a powerlifting gym, foundational stuff, going back to that. Dean was the state champion in powerlifting and like a junior national champion in powerlifting. He was one of the chair people here in North Carolina hosting and promoting. And he opened a gym called Best Gym, Dean Best, and he later went on to develop Best Belts. I don't know if you ever carried any of the Best Belt products over the years. Yeah, he made some of the best weightlifting belts. And so I was working for Dean at the gym, you know, like making shakes and keeping it clean when I was a young kid, 17, and I was in college at UNC Greensboro. And he was going a different direction and approached me because I've been working really as only employee. It was just a small 2,000 square foot hardcore gym and a couple hundred members. He approached me about acquiring it from him. And I had the good fortune and approached my dad. My brother was an accountant, so he could give us some good insight there. And we were able to put together the opportunity to acquire it. So Best Gym became Valentino's Fitness in 1984, and that was the first gym I had. And, you know, I was deeply into competing in bodybuilding. I always laugh. People will say, you know, about, you know, you turn these milestone birthdays, 30, 40, 50, 60. I was like, the hardest one for me was when I turned 20, because I competed like 10 times as a teenager, and all of a sudden I was going to be out of the teenage division. How am I going to compete against these monsters?
The grown men.
So that was my hardest birthday when I turned 20. That's how, you know, entrenched I was in the bodybuilding and developing. But so that gym turned into what was my first foray into owning gyms and being part of it.
Yeah. And I'll say this, like all the Carolina promoters, I mean, any show I've ever been to out here, like everybody does a great job, right? Be it, you know, Kevin, Quincy, Johnny, like everybody, they crush it, right? I'll say this, whenever I first started going to bodybuilding shows, and this is probably sub 2012, 2013, first one I ever went to was Muscle Heat. Branch Warren was the guest poser. One of my first
Quincy's show.
Yeah, and that was the first show I ended up doing too afterwards. But the Raleigh State show, that was a production, man. Oh wow! Like, I mean, at the convention center, because we would always set up through All Pro Nutrition, right? And you know, just like from all the vendors to how the athletes were taken care of, man, like that was like the show, you know. And it also seemed like it was one of the most competitive shows. Correct me if I'm wrong, was that the only North Carolina Pro-Am at the time when you were doing it?
That's correct, it was. That was the first one that came about. And I wanted to focus, because at that point I was in the Masters division, and that was originally, when I became a pro, there was no weight classes in the pro division in 2002. What they had started up was the Masters Olympia. So that was going to be my goal, is to compete in the Olympia. You had to be 40, so I at least have an age group that would, even though there was some amazing guys in the 40, wouldn't be against all the open competitors. And so when I started the Pro-Am, I wanted to offer something up for the Masters competitors. So I did a full array of the Masters age groups in a variety of the classes. And,
I remember seeing Antonio. I think he won it one year, did he not?
he won the state championships.
Yep.
He did. That's right.
Because I remember seeing him prep for it at Gold's, and I was just like, man, the back on this guy, just incredible, man.
He did.
You know, he crushed it.
But it was 85 the first year, though. So I'd opened the gym in 84, and then, you know, just again was entrenched in bodybuilding, and I was more of a helper to the chairman at the time. And I was in Greensboro. That's where the gym was. And so we had the Tar Heel Classic, is what I called the first competition, 1985. I held it in my high school auditorium, which just held, you know, maybe a few hundred people. And so it's obviously come a long ways, but that was the first one.
I mean, I'll say this, anybody that hasn't been to the Raleigh Convention Center, like, you used to pack the whole place out. Right.
We had some really good momentum going. I think adding that masters division and the pros and being able to bring in those. I think the last year that I called the IFBB portion of it Champions of Power and Grace, and that's a tagline and that I've used for years in my promotion. The Champions of Power and Grace, obviously just the words representing what I look at bodybuilding, the power of what you're doing in the gym and the training and the focus and discipline and the grace of what you're displaying on stage and the presentation of the physique and all that, how that combines together.
That makes me ask because prior to doing this podcast, I was actually watching, I believe it was your 2010 Muscle Heat. Was that a guest posing for you?
No, that was one of my last pro events.
Okay, so I didn't know if the Muscle Heat used to be a pro-am
It
or
was.
okay, got you.
Yep.
But just watching your posing, right? So like I could tell you put a lot of like almost reminded me of like Lee Labrada, like right, like very put together, a lot of thought in it. Like how do you feel about the posing nowadays? Like and I feel like a lot of guys. This is just me speaking personally. They don't put the same time and effort into the routines like they used to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm spoiled, man. In my mind, I come from the greatest era of bodybuilding, like the 80s, 90s, and Labrada and Sean Ray, and just that whole group. And of course, being a smaller statured guy, I always aspired to those guys. I mean, I was always a fan, of course, Arnold and some of the bigger developed guys. But Sean Ray, Lee Labrada, that crew, their posing was just something that they were very mindful of and focused on. And it was the same. Every cardio session I did was more or less me just playing on repeat my posing music and envisioning how it would go and putting together routine and practicing it in my mind and just having the mind connection with it.
They're also bringing back, or I find like at least most like top IFBB shows, like they're bringing back like Best Posers Award and everything, where they did away with that for I don't know why.
I know. Back from the 80s, 90s, body part awards was a big part of early competition. So best chest, best back, best shoulders.
And just like best presentation.
Best presentation. That's right. I did the most muscular for a number of years. I'm glad you brought that up. I need to reinvigorate that again. That was people would get excited about that.
Dude, I mean, like we had one of our guys took first in Classic Physique at the OCB show downtown this past weekend. Jordan Freeman was his first show. Kid's incredible. Awesome. But his posing, like he really snapped into it like very naturally, right? So like we only went over it a couple times and he's just like he was there, right? But I mean, like I feel like in the OCB show they did the Best Posers Award too. So it's like even if you're not taking like first, like you can tell who's done their homework.
Absolutely,
So I think like if the NPC shows all bring that back, it would kind of like reinvigorate a lot of that like artistry, right? And I just feel like a lot of that's been missing lately. Just like people kind of come up and they're like, oh, I got 30 seconds, I got 40 seconds, I'm gonna just free ball it to some like heavy metal music, and it's just like it's not the same, dude. But like I was always like, whenever I was doing my shows, Lee Labrada, Francis Benfato, like a lot of those guys that were like really, really, artistic and meticulous about it. And it matters, in my opinion, too. They say people aren't getting judged on the routine, but I feel like they should. Right. But back to like the business of bodybuilding, so we've got the Atlantic Coast show down here. Yep. Okay. This used to be the Gold's Classic, right? It did, yes. We've got it at the Hotel Ballast, June 7th. That's Saturday. We're just under 10 weeks now.
That's right.
Yep. That show seems to grow year over year.
It has, and keeping what we found back when it was the Gold's Classic, and even today the Atlantic Coast. What really drives that is when we get a lot of local competitors competing in it. Just because Wilmington, a destination, it's not like you're in Raleigh or Greensboro, a little more central. So as far as spectators coming out, we've really, family and friends is really what the crowd is made up of when you got a good local. So helping and encouraging local competitors continues to help that contest, because we have a good amount come out every single year. But it draws from, primarily North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia. We'll get a couple of Georgia competitors coming too. It's a national qualifier, so it does qualify for the national events. So people that are maybe gearing up for a contest like the Junior USA has already happened. So you got the Junior Nationals in June, then you follow it with the other North America coming up in August. So some people will use it for that, but primarily the local competitors in the region are really what's going to drive the contest. It always has.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I say. It's like, if you want to do a bodybuilding show, what better show to do than it's like right at the start of summer, bare minimum, even if you don't, catch a W or anything at the show, you're still in shape for the summer and you get to come down to the beach for a week,
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a win-win in my opinion. Last show I did, it was Excalibur down there in Charleston, Trey show.
Yeah.
Great show. Plus it gave us a reason to go hang out in Charleston for a week. So I don't know. I like the destination show spots, and even like back whenever we were doing the convention center, which, if you don't mind me asking, I know we switched from convention center to the Hotel Ballast. I have to imagine that was based on the cost of the venue. Yeah,
it was, and somewhat of the atmosphere. The convention center is just so big and open. So we tried a couple years. We had like a CrossFit event go on in there, and we tried partnering with other, and that could be, as we've come out of COVID, that really changed a lot of the way promoters were approaching putting on bodybuilding, fitness, figure competitions. I like the format we're doing now, where we're doing the male prejudging and finals all in one section, and then the females after. It allows competitors not to have to be there from 7 o'clock in the morning to midnight. Family members that are coming to watch their friends and family and loved ones, they can, they're not spending the entire day there. So I like this new format. So it was driven by two things. One is just that we just didn't need that big of a space. So you're in the convention center in this huge space, and, you got a couple hundred people in the audience that you could seat 2,000, So being at the Ballast right now, at least, has been a really good way to transition into that, where we set up about 300 seats. It's pretty much full, standing room only. It just creates a great atmosphere, and, it's a smaller space, so the competitors on stage feel it, and they feel the energy from it and excitement from it. And so that's been the main purpose right now.
I honestly feel like even now, like, you're starting to outgrow it. I mean, like, I know the show last year, man. I mean, like, it was packed. How many competitors joined last year?
Well, see, believe it or not, we only had about 92 competitors. I say only just because pre-COVID we were 200 and something competitors amongst all the divisions. So it is still of a rebuilding. There are a lot more contests in general in the region. With kind of South Carolina, Virginia. So like anything,
not at the beach though.
Not at the beach, though. That's right. Yeah. So and then we try to build that as one of the motivations to target this contest and come here. And the Atlantic Coast name came from, so we were the Gold's Classic for years, of course, when I was Gold's Gym. And transitioning out, when I'd gotten over being upset that I was turning 20, my first national qualifier event I did was actually the Atlantic Coast Championships here in Wilmington. That was hosted by the then chairman at the time, that I won and qualified for the nationals. So that's why I thought, well, that'd be a great name to start back with. And so we transitioned from the Gold's Gym to the Atlantic Coast Championships. That's how that name came about.
I like it. So tell me this, because like you were the chairman for North Carolina.
That's correct.
Yep.
That's
What's the business of the chairman like? Like, what does that all entail?
Well, the NPC, the National Physique Committee, is the sanctioning committee. Jim Mannion started that in the 70s. And so I basically coordinated and ran the NPC in North Carolina. And what you're doing with that is more or less responsible for the judges, coordinating judges, training the judges, trying to have some level of criteria of what it takes to become a judge. So, and then just working with the promoters that we had here in North Carolina and making sure that just things are run smoothly, check-ins, the competitions, the scoring, and so just organizing and coordinating the events.
How long were you chairman for?
About 32 years. Yeah, I was the assistant chairman when I was getting started for the prior gentleman, and then acquired that, and pretty much, that was my.
And now Trey has taken that spot, right?
He has. Trey is now, just as of 2025, just focusing on South Carolina. So the national office has taken over the chairmanship for right now as they look to put somebody else in place, somebody who's just going to be focused on North Carolina. That way, Trey's not spread thin, running, all over the place between that and family and other pro events that he's involved, that he helps judge.
Is Trey going to be doing the announcing this year for the Atlantic Coast?
No, actually, our Atlantic Coast Championship will be head judged by Mo Newman, and so Mo's been a regular head judge and judge for us over the years. And she's also
awesome.
going to, and she's also going to do the MC for us.
Cool. If you ever need another MC, I'll put my name in the hat.
All right, man. I like that. Heck yeah.
But no, that's cool, man. I knew you were chairman. I didn't know that you were chairman for that long, though. That's awesome.
It was, and as particularly my sons, as they started just growing and becoming more involved in athletics, after 30 years, it's like I can't be gone on the weekends, missing things, So it was a great move for me. It was the right move for me, and it was just time to transition out of it.
Sure. I mean, I see a lot between you and Lauren, like what you guys are posting with Vic and Vincent. Like, seems like you guys have, like, for one, phenomenal athletes, right? I see how much Vincent has grown and how quickly he's grown, and seems like he's beating people up every other weekend. I'm sure Vic will follow in his footsteps, but seems like you guys are very like methodical and intentional with the children as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly, we know as a nation, our youth obesity and those types of things. So we're always going to be involved in trying to impress nutrition and physical activity. That's just a must. So, and kids will be kids too. They want to be able to live a kid life and enjoy themselves. But again, back to the principles and the foundations of discipline, it carries over in everything. Their schoolwork, their future careers and paths. And so, yes, we hope to be passing on and instill in them. And they're on a good quality nutrition, hydration. And physical activity, want them to decide what they want to do, but you got to do something. You got to be active. You have to be involved in something. And, probably obviously just with the things that they're influenced by, just like the Atlantic Coast, they love going there every year and hanging out and being there and helping hand out trophies and just be around the atmosphere and seeing and meeting people and being influenced by that, of course, along with the gym.
Yeah, I was about to say I see them in the gym all the time. If they're not on payroll, they certainly work like it. And that was something I always thought was really cool because like my dad, he owned a sports bar in downtown Raleigh for 32 years, and I was not on payroll. I was the free labor.
That's right.
And so I'd be, Saturday morning or Thursday morning, like early before school, like you're out there like power washing cigarette butts off the front porch, cleaning pool tables. He had 25 pool tables. So that was like a 4 or 5 hour gig. But it's just like you're saying, it's like, hey, get out what you put in and things, right? Bodybuilding is no different. So I guess you probably attribute a lot of your business success to the discipline that was kind of ingrained in you from bodybuilding.
100%. And Lauren too, her father was a longtime bodybuilder back into the 60s and 70s, and he introduced her early on to working out. He still has the broomstick and the little weights that he made her when she was, very young. Yeah. And so those same principles that I just was exposed to, she was too, and so the fundamentals and the foundation of that is something you want to pass on for sure. And
Lauren, she's a very successful fitness coach now for women, correct?
She does. She her company is two-sided. Works with competitors, but not so much. Her goal is to, and it's primarily female-oriented, but just continue to help females that have struggled with just various, everything from weight to energy to, depression and things that we know that being physically fit, mindful of nutrition and hydration and those things can have a big benefit in just how you obviously feel each day, but how that shows up in how you perform as a mom, as a business person, as whatever your goals and career is. So she has done a remarkable job with that, and just continues to influence and help a lot of the ladies.
Yeah, and she's got a tremendous following on social media too. So I mean, and I see a lot of what she posts, and it seems like she's helping a lot of people, which is great.
She is, and again, the foundation came from, she was a very active competitor. Won everything around North Carolina.
IFBB Pro too as well.
Turned pro, winning the IFBB North American Championships. That's right.
That was figure? Or?
That was in figure.
Yep.
That's right. And that's just the category she competed in. She competed in one of the early Golds Classics. We did, before we met here in Wilmington was her first competition.
Very nice. Very nice.
And developed and moved on from there.
No, she definitely crushed it. I've seen her like over the years, and you could always tell like, hey, like athletic, like definitely got to be a pro, and obviously it's very fitting, you two together, pro and pro. But let me ask you this. What would you say if one of your sons came to you and said, Dad, I want to do a bodybuilding show?
Oh, well, that'd be pretty cool. That'd be pretty cool. Decide to. I think one of them will one day. Yeah. Again, they understand. They
got good genetics.
Yeah. There you go. Mom and Dad pass on a little something, but that would be awesome, man. It would be fun to watch them do that, to help them do that. To see the results of putting in the work and having to go. My daughter. She never did athletics growing up. She was in arts and music and was working at Racine in the kids' care.
I remember,
Came out of the kids' care. And remember one day she was training with Casey or Michael Broadway, and said, I want to do a competition. And she had never, pursued anything athletic. And I was like, okay, that's great. So I'm very happy that she's at, 10 years later from that first one, she's continued to follow just a fitness lifestyle and nutrition and exercise. And it's just ingrained in her life. Whether she competes anymore, she competed 4 or 5 times, did really well. And, goal setting and working towards the goal and accomplishing it and living with the results, good or bad, If you get smoked, do you dwindle or do you just go back and hit the gym hard?
I was about to say that's the motivating factor right there. It sure was for me. I got greased at my first bodybuilding show. I didn't know what I was doing, man. Seriously, like I got up there, I looked at the pictures, I was like, damn, I didn't even look like I knew I had a bodybuilding show today. It was different next time though.
You've been around for a while, what, 30, 40 years in this industry? How do you think social media has affected the culture of bodybuilding and gym ownership?
Yeah, it's been amazing. What there was obviously no internet or social media when I got started, so it was all books, it was magazines. Just funny story, I remember the way that what would happen at the Mr. Olympia every year is on the Sunday morning, I would call Gold's Gym in Venice and get the results. And then I would call all my friends around North Carolina and tell them what the results were, because you wouldn't know till 3 months later until the magazine came out. So, to your question, it's unbelievable. It's instantaneous, So from a business standpoint, I realized early on there's really no business, and you're relating business to making money in bodybuilding. Yeah. But obviously social media and all those types of avenues have created opportunities for people to build businesses using either their success from bodybuilding or fitness or figure, whatever their category was, and being able to leverage that and position that in social media to create a following, to create content, to give other people advice and training, and it's evolved to probably levels I don't even.
Yeah, I'm assuming back then coaches were not making any kind of money, and now they're online making a lot of fucking money. And
did you ever have a coach?
A phone and a camera.
Yeah, Mike, did you ever have a coach when you were competing?
My early influence was just some competitors around North Carolina that I got advice from. Quincy Roberts. I was 17, Quincy moved to Greensboro. He had just started competing. At that time, he was the greatest thing that walked the earth to me, and I followed and did whatever he told me, And so, and then that just evolved as you learn and you start to learn your own body. I was always more trying to figure out and intrigued about what worked for me when I got to a certain point. So I didn't reach out to too many different coaches, but over the years I've been so fortunate, just all the top people I've been able to have some association with.
It's a small world at the end of the day,
very small.
But nowadays, like coaching is so prevalent in bodybuilding. I know Tyler Mannion. He just announced that the NPC IFBB, they're coming out with like the official like co-brand. Well, not co-branded, but they're partnered with NASM to basically have like a official list of coaches that are approved through the sanctioned federation to coach people for shows, right? That way, you know, the person that's done like one show and suddenly has, you know, all the credit in the world of being a glorified coach, right? You know, they can't potentially go in there and trickle down dangerous knowledge to somebody, right? Which I think is great. You know, I think it's going to improve the quality of the physiques on stage and also kind of like regulate from a safety perspective,
100%.
you know, some of the bozos that are out there trying to make a quick buck.
But even into the gyms, as you asked about, well, I mean, I remember 25 years ago, I'd run an ad on the radio and people would come in like talking about that ad, or you put an ad in the paper. That wasn't even anything that I would ever think of to do today. You know, it's all social media, posting content. What we found is that whenever and it makes sense, but what we found is that anything to do with like a member interview, a success story or a challenge story, or a staff highlight or spotlight, we get the most traction with those. People are going to be most interested in people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we found that just having content out there, trying to be relevant. You know, if you get a new piece of equipment in, you do a demonstration, a highlight, that's also popular, but nothing compares to a member success story, a member challenge story, or a staff spotlight too. So we try to keep those kind of regular, but that's really the foundation of what I know most. You know, keep your gym clean, be on social media, you know, have a good staff, hellos and goodbyes, and that's like the formula. You know, how to connect with people.
And for anyone wanting to open a gym or has a gym, what's the one piece of advice you would give them to be successful?
You know, I guess getting started is, you know, the old adage, location is true. The gym business is a destination business. But convenience is always clearly going to be number one. So you have to be in a location that's going to be somewhat has some good density around it for it to be convenient for people. People that are super into training and that type of thing. Like if you moved somewhere, Will, probably one of the first things on your radar is to find out what gym is in that community. Where you're going to go to the gym. You know what I mean? So people and people that are built like that and that wired in their training, they're going to maybe travel a little bit further distance or maybe pop around. Today it's so different, but ultimately to answer your question, just location and making sure that you really do your demographic studies good, that you're in a spot that's going to be convenient for the population. And today there's so many ways to be able to do that. Again, through social media, like audience, you know, marketing and Facebook and other ways that you can try to hone in and dial in on that. 25 years ago, if somebody went and joined another gym,
I know, like we gotta kill that thing.
Mr. Miyagi there, yeah. 25 years ago, if somebody went and joined another gym in town, you're butthurt, like, why did they go to another gym, you know? Today, people go to multiple gyms.
I have probably 9 memberships.
Exactly.
You know?
And that's just where it's at today, you know?
And I'm pretty sure I have a membership to an MMA gym that I don't go to.
That's right. And that's the way it is, you know, whether you're looking for different equipment, different just atmospheres or different training tools, you know? So it's not hard to open the physical plant of a gym. There's a lot of great equipment companies out there. There's enough information that if you do a little bit of research, you should be able to find out what the best equipment is and what people are looking for. It's always going to roll back operationally to the people, though. Who's there? Connecting with the members, you know, hellos and goodbyes, keeping the gym clean. At the end of the day, that's what most people are looking for when they're going to the gym. And social media can be a big adjunct to that. You know, you can really leverage that.
It's like an experience, you know, that's what I tell people. Like whenever they come into our shops, it's like, hey, it's not that we necessarily have something you can't find anywhere else. It's just like, you know, it's the experience of coming to see you, right? Be it, you know, coming in, seeing, you know, Mike at the gym or, you know, whoever's working that's going to do a great job. But I always told people we were like, it seems like we're in the hospitality business, you know, which I mean, kind of you are, right? But no, I mean, that's what I've always noticed from day one with, you know, going to any of your gyms. You know, it's like everybody, they greet you with a smile, coming and going. And, you know, the gym's always tip-top shape, best equipment, the whole nine.
No, I
It's great.
appreciate it. I mean, that's what you strive towards, you know,
Yeah.
and if you have those as your fundamentals and your goals, again, to me, I look at those as basics. I want my staff in uniform, and I want them, because, you know, people come into the gym, I feel like the fundamentals should be done, a name tag. These things to me are principles that you just don't stray from. And when you do, you just, you know, you maybe becomes lackadaisical, and there's going to be highs and lows. You're going to have some that adhere to it strictly, and others that maybe are not as bought in, you know, but it's just about coaching that and trying to get everybody on the same page, have the same vision.
Definitely. Piggybacking on what you just asked for somebody opening a gym, what would be your piece of advice to somebody who's thinking about doing a bodybuilding show?
Well, you know, back to coaches, you know what I mean? I think, well, the first thing I suggest to people to do is go to a contest and watch it. Like, there's so many people that are like, they've never even been to a contest and they want to compete in a contest.
June 7th, Atlantic Coast Championship.
Go. That's right.
Shameless plug.
The shameless plug. Thank you. No, you know, just go experience it so you can see what it's like, what the atmosphere is like, what the flow is coming off and on stage. And so, you know, obviously go experience it first. And again, today you can see all that on YouTube and Instagram and everything. Years ago, that wasn't the case. So, and then you know, finding. Typically, you're looking in your local community, or maybe reaching out to people that are in the NPC in the States and finding out. Because people would reach out to me and say, "Hey, I live in Greensboro. You know, would you train me?" And I'm like, "No, you know, I need to be able to see you on some regular basis, and not." I never got into that. And of course, again, today with social media and all the things that are going on with audio and video, that you can do a lot of things. But find somebody in your local community that can give you the foundation. So people would ask me, and I would have people around the state that I knew, that I felt like did a good job of getting people started on the right track and had the basic principles down. Just when you try to go from 1 to 10, but you skip 2 through 9 steps, you just miss so much.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
This might be a dumb question, but I don't know much about bodybuilding, but I'm assuming there's a lot of people who want to do it, but they have stage fright, right? Is that true? How do they get past it?
No, I mean, no doubt. It's and I relate that to the gym. Back when we were Golds, we'd have people that would come up to me and be like, "Oh yeah, I've been training down the road at XYZ because I felt like I needed to get to a certain point before I come to Gold's Gym." And I'm like, no. It's like, you know, do you want to be coached by, you know, Nick Saban, or do you know what I mean? Or so point is, and so what you're saying is that that has certainly been something that holds people back. And I think what I've seen happen is once people start, okay, I'm going to try to train for this contest. This is my goal. I want to do that. They start seeing the changes in their body. The motivation and the desire really starts to elevate within, because they just get this natural excitement from seeing, like, wow, I didn't know I was going to see that, you know, and they see these changes, and the confidence starts to grow. And, you know, it's that whole thing, just put one foot in front of the other, man. If you're going to do it, you just got to get going and to some degree, just believe and let the changes happen. And I've seen so many people that excitement just grows as they see their body change.
I have a follow-up question really quick. Because you're putting on a show on stage, right? Pretty much doing a show. Do you think introverts have a better, or extroverts have a better outcome than introverts?
You know, that's an interesting question. I don't think so, because I've seen some introverts that what makes them so good is they're so focused. You know, they just seem to really, they're just honed in. And I don't know if that's a natural trait for an introvert or not. So I can't say that I would be able to, tell you that one has excelled over the other. I can see traits of both either being advantageous or not. You know, if an extrovert, part of their being an extrovert is they're out at the clubs every weekend and they don't want to eliminate that in the final 10 weeks of the prep, that's not going to serve them well. You know what I mean? So I guess it just depends on where that takes them. But yeah, I don't think there's attributes to either one that would override the other.
I also feel like when it comes to stage presentation, practice is everything, right? Getting those reps like every single day after working out. Like that was what I always loved about Golds. Also, and TrueFit has the same thing to it, is like there's a room to go pose, right? So, I mean, like every single day I would go train at Golds, like somebody would be in the aerobics room when there wasn't a class going on or something, like completely stripped down, almost butt ass naked posing, right? Or over there,
Sometimes right in front of the dumbbell rack.
I was about to say over there in the anabolic corner, right, with the natural light coming in, dude.
Exactly.
I mean, I've seen so many pro bodybuilders like in like nothing but trunks over there, man.
Exactly.
Just like that was Brian Martinez's spot, and I used to see him. I think he was. This is when he was prepping for the Tampa Pro, right? Yeah, and dude, just right whenever they brought the classic physique category out, and I was like, holy shit, dude. It was incredible. But I mean, I think that's probably what'll help with your stage presence more than anything. It's just like every single day, practice. Go through your mandatories.
Those are, if you look back at any of the foundational things, Arnold, Franco Columbo, Frank Zane, Lou Ferrigno, any of them, you know, they are always posing in between sets. You know, there's been so many errors and transitions, eras and transitions. I remember back, somebody was, you know, knocking on somebody posing in the gym. I was like, what's different than a guy who's just swinging his golf club in his backyard trying to practice his swing? You know, he's posing because he's practicing what he's going to do when he competes, you know, when he performs. So, you know, though it might look egotistical to you that they're posing in front of the mirror, it's no different than swinging your club and taking a video of it and then analyzing what your swing was like. So, you know, but again, Arnold, Franco, Frank Zane, all those guys posed all the time. It was part of their training, you know, and the isometric contraction of the muscle is difficult. There's not a competitor I ever trained over the years that after I took them through their first just practicing pose and trying to teach them how to pose, they were not exhausted. They're like, oh my God, I'm about to die. It's
cardio.
Like holdings.
Oh yeah.
It's conditioning, man. It really is.
So that you don't feel that way for no reason. You have tapped your body. You have done some physical activity and exercise that will help the muscle grow, develop, you know, and just, you know, some people believe it actually gives you a different look.
It hardens you up.
Hardens you up with that kind of contraction and isometry. Yep.
Yeah, I feel the same way, man. I mean, like, it was funny. We during COVID, I had a buddy. He did like one of the first shows that they allowed to. It was down in Columbia. I forget what the name. Actually, it was the Charlotte show.
Okay.
It was the Charlotte Cup, except they couldn't have it in Charlotte, so they had it in Columbia.
Oh,
yeah. Kevin did it, or no, it was Johnny. Excuse me. We went down there, and my buddy Brewster was doing it, and he ended up taking first overall in classic physique, but like we the only gym we could get to was the Belief Fitness at the time, back around the corner from the gym and the shop and everything. We would do just like the most grueling posing sessions in there, and he would actually have to mop the floor after he got done because he sweated so much. You know, it's crazy, but different times. I think that's about all I got for you, Mike. I'll be honest with you, man. Obviously, once again, like we've got the June 7th Atlantic Coast Championship. Might be a biased opinion, but I personally think it's one of the best shows in North Carolina during the competition season.
We appreciate NutriPrime's sponsorship and
always.
You know, being the lead sponsor. You know, it's the NPC NutriPrime Atlantic Coast Championships. June 7th is down at the Ballast Hotel, and just continue to see how it's going year in, year out, and appreciate your support and trying to
Always.
You know, get the word out and grow the competition base. And we might be back over there at the convention center and doing some more, some other fitness activities and competitions alongside it.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, like with the way the competition's grown year over year, I mean, like I said earlier, it's like, who doesn't want to come to the beach and compete, right? But I mean, I could definitely see outgrowing the venue in coming years, but for now, I mean, it's like I said, it's the best show in North Carolina. So
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Absolutely. You got anything else, Will?
No, I'm good.
Cool,
Thank you.
man.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Learned a lot. Learned a lot today.
There we go.
Thank you.
Mike Valentino, the man behind bodybuilding in Wilmington. Appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, man, absolutely.